Did Ripple just lose the SEC case? We just got a brand new ruling from Judge Torres in the Ripple SEC case, and to be honest, it was a lot different than many people were expecting. In this video, I want to break down the ruling and really talk about the implications here because there's a lot of different points being made on X right now, and I think some people are missing an extremely important detail. At the end of the video, though, I want to talk about two massively bullish pieces of news. One directly having to do with something big Ripple is brewing in the background, and the other, a very interesting chart. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you have any good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to start off the video and jump right into the thing that I'm sure everyone is wondering right now, and that is what just happened in the Ripple SEC case. Now, essentially where we were in the case was Judge Torres had ruled that certain of Ripple's sales constituted as securities transactions, and she barred them from making those sales moving forward. She also fined Ripple for the sales that she deemed were securities transactions. Now, her fine was about 150 million, and she barred Ripple from making certain transactions when dealing with financial institutions. The fine she put on them was about 150 million, and Ripple and the SEC, right, at the time, were fighting back and forth about this. Now, the interesting thing was the new SEC came in and they said, we don't agree with anything the old SEC did. We want to get rid of this essentially order that stops Ripple from selling XRP to financial institutions. And we also want to lower Ripple's fine because, quite frankly, they just don't agree that Ripple should have been penalized for what they were doing. So the new SEC and Ripple went to Judge Torres and they said, hey, let's just get rid of all of this. And earlier today, Judge Torres made her ruling and she said, no, I'm not just going to get rid of all of it. The SEC can't just change their mind and expect courts to just go along with whatever they're saying. So Judge Torres essentially said, no, I'm not changing my ruling. I made this ruling based on the law as I saw it. I'm not just going to change my mind because you guys are now asking for something else. Now, a lot of people are looking at this and saying it's a really big problem because now XRP can't be sold to financial institutions. And I want to make something very clear. That is not what the ruling said. Judge Torres was ruling based off Ripple's past activities. So what she did was she said, okay, Ripple, the way you were selling XRP before, you can't do that unless you register those sales with the SEC. Now, let's just talk about something real quick because not a lot of people are really investigating the nuance of what Judge Torres said. Judge Torres specifically said, you cannot sell XRP the way you were selling XRP before without registering that with the SEC. Now, let's just think about that statement real quick. First of all, Ripple still sells XRP. So the question is, are they in violation of Judge Torres' order? No, they're just selling XRP differently. The judge specifically said you can't sell it the way you were doing it before. So let's look at it this way. If I told you you can't go to the store via the roads you were taking to the store before, you would say, oh, wait, so I can still go to the store though. I'll just take these other roads. And the answer would be yes, you just have to take the other roads. That's what Ripple is doing with XRP. Judge Torres said, hey, you can't sell XRP in the way you were selling it before. She didn't say you can't sell XRP to financial institutions. She said you can't have that same offering you were doing before. So all Ripple needs to do is sell XRP to institutions in a different way. Ripple's a very nimble company. It's super easy to restructure these deals in a different way to make it so they can sell XRP to financial institutions. So first of all, this is really a big nothing burger when it comes down to that. Ripple can still sell XRP to financial institutions. It's just that they have to do it with the understanding that they need to make sure they're not violating any of Judge Torres' rulings. I'm sure they would have liked to get rid of it. It would have been a nice to have, but it's not some death sentence, and it's really not even that negative. It's just something they have to be aware of. Now, the other point here that's extremely interesting is they can also just register the sales with the SEC. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make XRP a security. They just have to ping the SEC and say, hey, by the way, we're going to go sell XRP to this financial institution, and the SEC will say, okay. So that's all that really happened. And as you can tell, it's really not a big deal. Tried to make this extremely clear on the channel because a lot of people are looking at this and coming up with these crazy theories of different happening and why this is an issue and sort of how Ripple's like done. Guys, it is so simple. Ripple has continued to sell XRP to financial institutions. They will continue to do it in the future. It is really not a big deal that Judge Torres said that you have to do things a little bit differently in the future. Just don't do those things you were doing in the past. Super important to understand that. And that's why Stuart Alderati specifically said, it's business as usual. We don't care. We will move past this. Maybe the SEC comes out with a new rule that completely clears this up. Maybe Ripple and the SEC enter in some private negotiation where they agree that this is not going to be an issue. There's a million paths forward. One of them was exhausted, which was getting Judge Torres to 180 her ruling, but it doesn't really matter. We're just on to the next thing. Ripple continued to run their business, and now they just have a bit of a higher fine. Now, when it comes down to the fine they're paying, who cares? Let me remind you guys, Ripple just paid 1.25 billion to acquire Hidden Road. The SEC fine is 150 million. Ripple's got stacks. They don't care about the 150 million. They'll pay it off. Would they rather save 100 million? I'm sure everyone would want to save 100 million, but it's not a big deal. What this ruling really was a nice to have. They didn't get the nice to have. They have other avenues they can pursue, and they can continue to do that. Moving forward, we'll see what Ripple tries to do. Will them in the SEC try to duke it out in the Second Circuit? I don't think so. I think they're just going to move on. They're going to take the ruling and figure out how to work together. The most important part is that Ripple and the SEC want to work together. The SEC wants to work with Ripple. They're no longer trying to hurt Ripple. And that is the most important part about all of this. If they were working against each other and the SEC was like, yes, Judge Torres, good job for not agreeing to this, that would be a problem because the SEC would try to punish Ripple for anything that came close to the injunction. That's not what's happening. They're working together. They're on the same side. This was a nice to have. We didn't get it, but it's not going to matter over the long run. So with that explicitly clear, I want to move on to two very bullish things. The first thing is we just got a brand new report that Ripple, even with this news, is not done purchasing companies. We just got a note from Masari that says that Ripple is looking and in the process of leveraging their cash on hand to acquire more companies. They just bought Medico, they bought Standard Custody, they bought Hidden Road, and they're looking to purchase more companies. Ripple is on a buying spree. Ripple's got a ton of money. They have an extremely well-run business, and it looks like they are not even close to done when it comes to scooping up infrastructure in the cryptocurrency space. Ripple is going to continue to be the most important, the biggest whale in the room when it comes to crypto, and it looks like they are not even close to done. So I'm curious what you guys think. Who do you think will be that next big purchase? Me personally, I think it's going to be a market maker. I think Ripple is going to start scooping up more and more market makers in the cryptocurrency space and start incorporating the XRP Ledger DEX as a decentralized clearinghouse for the cryptocurrency market. That's personally what I would love to see. I want the XRP Ledger to be the liquidity provisioning protocol and the decentralized clearinghouse for not only TradFi, but the crypto space as well. And if the XRP Ledger can become the best place, the best source of liquidity to swap any cryptocurrency back and forth, it will default become the most important liquidity provisioning protocol and clearinghouse that has ever existed. And with that touched on, I want to get into the very bullish XRP price chart because this is one I haven't seen before and I really thought it was pretty interesting. This was posted by Blockchain Backer. I know a lot of people here love Blockchain Backer, including myself. And what it is the altcoin market compared to Coinbase. And what you can see is these charts track each other almost perfectly. Every single time Coinbase goes on a big rip, the altcoin market follows. What you can see is that right now, we are simply waiting for that next big move for the altcoin market to catch up to Coinbase. Coinbase always kind of leads the market. It's always a little bit ahead of the altcoin market. And what we're waiting on right now is simply for the altcoin market to catch up to Coinbase. So here it is right here. Every single time Coinbase moves, the altcoin market follows. Just like it always does, Coinbase is moving upwards and the altcoin market is gearing up to follow. These two charts have been correlated since 2023. Every single time Coinbase makes its move, it seems like the altcoin market is very quick to follow. I don't think it's going to be any different this time. Seems like things are lining up really well, and we will see the altcoin market continue to follow Coinbase, signaling a big move around the corner. I know a lot of people are shaken up by the news today, thinking, oh, this is so bad, thinking that XRP's price movement was like devastated by this ruling. It was down 2%. 2% means the market said, yeah, we don't really care. This is going to be nothing moving forward. And that's really how I feel about it. The most important thing is Ripple and the SEC are on the same team now. Whatever happens, they'll figure it out. Trust me, these things are a lot easier to work out than you think. It's not easy when you're negotiating with a company that's trying to destroy your business, but when you're on the same side, pretty much anything's possible. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. And for now, Mickle out.